Hi everybody, this is Joel Kennedy with Kennedy Violin. So today we're going to talk about how to size a violin for your kid and, a little bit on, why it's important. Now, one thing to remember is that sizing a violin is not a perfect science. It's pretty subjective. So you could ask, 5 different teachers and you might get 5 different answers. But there's like 3 main methods and I'll talk about those today. Oh, and by the way, don't forget to like and subscribe. Just hit that little heart there and subscribe, hit the subscribe button and maybe the alert bell on your mobile device, so you get alerted when I create a new video. Okay, so the first method of the 3 primary methods is how does the hand fit around the scroll of the violin. So you literally just get the violin here, right? And then the kid, they reach out their left hand and they wrap it around the scroll. Now, what they always say is they say, well, half of the hand or half of the palm should fit around about halfway around the scroll. Now, this method is pretty darn subjective and you might get a lot of people saying a lot of different things because, first of all, where's the middle of a scroll? I mean, it's not even symmetrical, right? Is it here? Is it here? Is it here? I don't know. It kind of depends on, the teacher and like, is it the middle of your palm right here? Is it the middle of your hand? Is it, so it's a little subjective, but if you're an experienced teacher, at least you can get it in a ballpark. And even if you're just a parent, it'll probably be a really good way to kind of narrow it down. But again, they always just say, put the violin up to the kid, put their arm out and make sure that their scroll can at least reach, midway on the palm or the hand. And if it can't, well, that means the violin's probably too big, right? Now, the second method is pretty straightforward and probably the most objective way to measure a violin. And that is to literally just measure from the base of the neck to the halfway point of the hand, basically. So you're just measuring here all the way to about midpoint of the hand, and that will give you a measurement, and then you just go to a sizing chart, and there are sizing charts all over the internet. We have one on Kennedy Violins. I'll post a link in the video description, so just make that measurement, look at the chart, and it's probably going to be pretty accurate. Okay, so the third option, which is the option that I've personally used the most, mostly because I've helped tens of thousands of parents on the phone, so I can't really see the child, so I have to kind of go by, the information that they provide to me. But I usually just go by age as a general rule, and there's age charts as well. In fact, a lot of times the charts that are in the option number 2, that method number 2 that I mentioned previously, they're going to have the age that kind of corresponds with the measurements as well. And I have that chart in our video description. You can click on that. You can go to that as well. But when you're talking about age, it is kind of important to consider at what point of the age are they, right? So if I ask a parent and they say, oh, my child's 7. Okay, well, did they just turn 7? Or are they about ready to turn 8? And especially when they get in the growth spurts, portions of their age, well, that really matters. So I would just generally ask the parents, what's their age, how long have they been that age, and are they small, average, or large for their age? Usually with those 2 questions, it's pretty easy. But the reason why you ask if they're, big or small for their age is because there's a big difference between some large 10-year-olds and some small 12-year-olds. So as a general rule, if you're 12 years old, or even 11, you can almost always play on a full-size violin. But there's some 10-year-olds that are really big and they can play on a full size. Or there's some really tiny 11-year-olds who aren't quite there yet. So it kind of matters, if they're generally considered small, average, or large for their age, and also how long have they been that particular age. Okay, so before I go, just 3 small points that I'll mention really quickly. Number 1, as a general rule, you want the student or anybody playing a violin to play the biggest one that they can. Why? Well, bigger instruments sound better. It's easier to produce a sound. It's easier to produce a bigger sound. Usually they have higher quality sound. So your goal is to try to find an instrument that's as big as possible, but sizing is important. You don't want to play on an instrument that's too big, and that takes me to point number 2. You do not want to put them on an instrument that's too big. It can be tempting sometimes because you don't want to have to rent or buy or whatever all these various sizes of instruments because it can get expensive or it's a pain. But if you have them playing on an instrument that's too big, well then, you know, they could have some pain, they could develop injury, they could develop bad technique, all kinds of stuff. So at the same time, you want them to play on as big an instrument as possible. It's also really important that you don't push it too far and you're a little bit patient with putting them in an instrument that's too big because it could cause a lot of problems. So the third point that I'll mention is that as a general rule, any 12-year-old and older can play on a full-size violin. So if you're an adult and you're watching this video, well, chances are, even if you're a small adult, you can play on a full-size violin. Now, if you're a beginner adult and you're having a really tough time with that fourth finger, well, it's probably not because your hands are too small or what have you. It's probably just because your muscles are tight. You know, as you get older, your muscles get tight and it gets harder to play instruments like guitar or piano or violin or anything else. So through daily practice, at least 5 days a week, those tendons and all the sinew and all in your muscles and everything else, they'll start to limber up and they'll get more comfortable. So just practice your scales slowly, play a little bit every day, and I promise that tightness that you feel as an adult will eventually go away. So anyways, guys, I hope this video was helpful for you today. And if you have any other questions, just put them in the comments section. I answer pretty much all the comments. If you have ideas for other videos, let me know. I'll probably do that video. And as I always say, you know, here at Kennedy Violins, we're all players and teachers. So we're always happy to answer any kind of questions that you have. Have a great day.